Right, this is going to be another episode of Hot Take Point Made. Obviously, the boys are back. By the way, later on this episode, the first ever hot take not from us three will be introduced to the show from a fan.
Oh.
I've sourced one, as I told you, and we will indeed address it, /roast it, /dismiss it. So if you don't want to know, I'll tease it right now. If you want to submit a hot take in the future, again, we are not promising we will take them all. Loads of people submit, and I just pick the one I think is the most fun to use. You have to subscribe to the Last Free Nation Discord, and if you do so, you will then get access to a bunch of channels. And there's questions. By the way, if you're a fan of League of Legends, you can ask a question for somebody Insight. If you're a fan of Richie Lewis, you can ask one of the show, The Four Horsemen, which is an industry show. And for League of Legends, there's a hot take point made. But for CS Hot Take Point Made, it'll be called CS/Hot Take Point Made. There'll be hot takes or something. You can go in there and you can submit your take there, and maybe you one day will be asked about your sanity or how much level of cultural impact your take has. Who knows? That could be your dream come true. Right. The question now, though, is who has the first take of this episode?
For me to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, do it. Take it.
I mean, I'll do it. Let's start off with the best one for me, I think. And that is that ZONIC and the whole coaching staff / management for Falcons needs to be sacked today. Like literally today, April 1st of 2025, and we're recording.
And this isn't an April Fool's. No, exactly.
Yeah, it's not true. There's nothing funny about this one.
Okay.
Like 100%. When you take a look of like things that can be happening in that team around those lineups and these players and everything else in the last 15, 16 months since the switch was made from the old Falcons with not Boros, but MHL and all these Loungs and all these people, and Aussie Striker was the coach and whatnot, right? Ever since then, they invested not several, like I feel like it could be $10 million so far in different aspects of the lineup, right? In different areas. They accomplished total of nothing. If you even compare it to the old lineup, like these guys have been playing all the events for the 15 months. They came to the final twice. One 2 months ago and one in the Challenger where they lost to Complexity 2-0 back in 2024, right? Outside of that, they have a couple of semifinals, and that is pretty much it. They had a good lineup in the last year. They have a better lineup on paper right now, together with one of the GOATs of the game. And they're not even close to moving at all in terms of their game. Not a centimeter or an inch, whatever you're looking from. It's just nothing. If you think it's deeply, it's even going backwards. It's regressing. They're playing such a bad Counter-Strike that is impossible even to watch them and find anything positive in their game outside of individual flashes of performance here and there from Nico, and sometimes Dexter, sometimes Tessus, doesn't really matter who it is. But altogether they have been playing a shitty Counter-Strike, and for me it comes down to not just the team, it comes down to the decision making behind the team, which includes the people in the organization, which includes the coach and the coaching staff, whoever that may be, right? And on top of that, we have ZONIC giving these interviews where I don't know what the fuck is he saying. When he comes in and says Nico is the best CT caller that I have ever worked with, and he won all these things with Glaive, with Magus, who is still on the team, who made some calls there in a certain period of time. And they won all these things. With Falcons, they have not come close to even be a top 5 team right now at all. And he is the best he has worked with. But where are the fucking results? On top of that, he goes in an interview and says listen, you cannot build a team from zero or whatever the fuck, right? No, you cannot build a team from the zero. People can do it. Now, what I said at the beginning, they all need to be fired. That doesn't mean that, he needs to be kicked or fired from the fucking planet Earth and Counter-Strike. He will probably land in another top team. He's probably more likely than not, have a success in another top team, because obviously he has something good with him, right? But for this project in particular, he has not done anything. Literally anything. And he has been the one, from what we know, that has been making the calls on the roster together with their head of esports, that Grant guy, whatever the fuck his name is. The same person who goes on Twitter, I believe, and that's the same person that complains about the voice comm on the being played on Twitter, and instead of fixing the things inside the game, he gets the balls to go there and says something like that. And then he even adds to it, like saying, "Listen, the other coaches have also like commented on this. It was only Mitter and Taz said something like whatever, like something in general." And that's it, right? He focuses on that, not on the 16 months of bad decisioning or decision making, millions of dollars spent, 60+ K salaries. I can tell you that much right now, which is what I know. On some players is 60K, and the coaches 60K plus.
A month.
A month, people. A month.
Yeah.
This is what you can support. Gamer Legion can be sustained for 2 months with 60K. One player or the coach is being paid one salary a month, obviously, for the same amount that you can sustain a team like Gamer Legion for 2 months, or not to mention the other teams. And the results are like this. And they even complain about this shit, about this fucking thing. And then the cherry on top of the fucking cake is this timeout. I have never seen anything worse.
That was crazy.
In my fucking life. Listen, I had bad timeouts. I had bad calls in the timeouts. I had good timeouts. I had heated timeouts in my fucking past. But I have never had anything like this. I kept rewatching it. I kept re-listening it. If you can see, like, Kixon is looking back like this at some point and waiting for the coach to call something, waiting for give him the instruction, because Kixon is an IGL who is an IGL, like, in the game, like, literally, like it says his role. Outside of the game, he's not a leader. He's just a dude, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Magisk is saying some shit about, like, rounds being unlucky. Who the fuck wants to hear about that shit in the fucking 30 seconds that I have you? I'm the coach. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. If the rounds are lucky or unlucky. Like, if it's in a sense that you need to, like, motivate people, just say, forget about it, let's move on. Not the rounds have been unlucky and then somebody has a reply, maybe not, and then Dexter says, what? It's like they landed on the moon without any communication devices at all. Just what? And then Nico, being Nico, people gave him shit for it, but he was looking back and he was waiting for ZONIC to call something. And then he obviously didn't call anything. He was like, yeah, you're gonna do something or I should call it, right? Not in the sense you fucking whatever. It was like, you're gonna do your job or should I do it for you? That was between the lines, right? Because he wants to do that thing that's necessary at that very moment of the timeout. The 17 seconds is the video. 17 seconds. ZONIC says, oh, I'm just thinking. What are you thinking about? You think about things that you want to say and fucking call before you call the timeout. You see that that's the shit that's happening behind you're standing behind your team. You see the shit is happening. You call a timeout, instantly say what you need to do or what you need to correct. Maybe you say, listen, Tessis, you fucking whatever. Just fucking, you're not talking, you didn't get enough information, like, on multiple rounds, you need to say exactly what you see here, or you need to save your nades, or you need to use your nades, or just individual, like, any kind of direction, all team call. He says nothing, and he's listening to Maggot saying that rounds have been unlucky, and Dexter replying with, what? And that's it. And you tell me that person is paid $50,000-$60,000 a month, together with other people, for 16 months total? Without any result, without any kind of critiquing or any kind of consequences. If anybody else can get critiqued and kicked and, talked about his failures, he can be, and then his coaching staff can be too. And that also includes the Falcons fucking management. Like, whoever is in charge, the Crown Prince or whatever his name is, hit me up. I'll give you 2 months for free. Free trial. To see how things are done. With the proper funding. Because this is shit. You're ruining again another fucking.
To be fair, that wouldn't be the first time.
Fucking...
That wouldn't be the first time you give an org free coaching. So.
Yeah. I'm used to it by now. All right, that's my rant. You go answer.
Okay. Just a few key points for this one. That I talked to Zipnix on the desk at Blast. And asked him about ZONIC and the timeouts and what ZONIC did. I was like, okay, what was the average ZONIC timeout, in the heyday of Astralis? And he said, the first thing he said was that he thinks that ZONIC is a great moral support. It wasn't tactics. It was that he's really good at just kind of helping everybody get into the right mentality. And that to me said like that was a huge red flag because that's kind of what I feel like has been bubbling up lately in terms of even what Dupree has said on the desk at Blast also about ZONIC, that he was just a good moral leader. And the more that I've heard from ex-Astralis players now, the less I think that actually ZONIC was part of creating the strategies that made them as good as they are. I think he probably instilled a great philosophy for the team to make sure that they played off of each other and everything like that. But in terms of actually coming up with a strategy, I have to at this point just assume this was Glaive. I just kind of have to. Like I can't really like nothing has been given to me lately that's like, oh yeah, ZONIC come up with this. It's more just like, yeah, he like kept us together, made sure we're like in the right mindset for it. And that's clearly not what a team like Falcons really need. I mean, I think that the results at this point are impossible to ignore for ZONIC and his tenure with Falcons. He's been with them for now, how long? He's been with them for about a year and a half.
A year and a half, yes.
Yeah, he's been with them for about 1 year and 6 months. They've missed 2 majors, and all in all, they would have missed this major if they didn't just buy the spot.
And Maui, yes, sorry to interrupt you. I forgot that part. Like, I got so agitated every time I talk about it. But the thing is, like, they don't deserve to be on this fucking major.
No.
Yeah, they bought the spot.
Yeah, no, you look, this is why on like Snake and Banter recently, I made it my ugly point for how much Cluj affected the rankings because this whole season for Falcons is this 9th to 16th. They didn't even make it to the LAN portion of the Blast Bounty, which means they didn't even get in the top 8. They were 13th to 16th at Katowice, which means they were dead last. They were dead last after the play-in. They came in 2nd place at Cluj, which is like their one good result. ESL Pro League, they didn't make the playoffs. And again, this is like an ESL Pro League where it's pretty softball. Like they lost the teams they lost to in the group stage were 3D Max, Eternal Fire, and MauisNake. And like I'm not saying that's they lost to 3D Max, which is already bad. But the other 2 teams are pretty good. Like MauisNake and Eternal Fire are not bad teams, but then at the Blast Open Spring, huh?
Oh, then Maus isn't a bad team. Fucking understatement of the century. What are you talking about? Why are you building up? Why are you making some Fugazi ass like Tom? I guess Maus is all right. They're like the second best team in fucking Counter-Strike. What?
No, I'm saying Eternal Fire and okay.
Eternal Fire would be in your top 5 with a gun to your head right now.
I think he meant Maus is not a team is like embarrassing to lose. It's not a bad team to lose.
Losing to Eternal Fire.
Go on.
Yeah. But then at the Blast Open Spring, they lost to who they lose again. They lost to MauisNake, which is yes, MauisNake is a top team, okay. But then they lost to Virtus Pro. But let me remind people the way they lost to VP, they were up a map and they were up 9-3 on an Ancient, and they were on what was it, Ancient CT side? I'm pretty sure. They were on Ancient T side. Ancient T side.
Inferno, right?
Well, they were up as well. They were up on 2 maps. They were up on 2. Yeah. They were up.
I remember turning off the stream. I was like, "Yeah, this is over. Like, I need to go do something." All of a sudden, I come back. They're lost.
Yeah, they were up 9-3. They were up 9-3 on Ancient, and technically they were up 12-10 at one point. On Inferno, they were up 12-5. They were up 12-5, and they lost that. So the way they lost was just one of the most humiliating losses of the season for any team. You're up a map. You're up 9-3 on one map, you lose that one. Okay, sure, you move on. But then you're up 12-5, you lose that one. It's like, that's where I would almost expect like a moral coach is going to help me out of that kind of situation. It's like, how are we going to choke twice? So the body of work for ZONIC on Falcons has just been abysmal. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's a fraud for what he did for like
should he be fired?
Like and then it brings to the point now, every piece that has been with ZONIC on Falcons has gotten worse. Every single piece has gotten worse since he has worked with them on Falcons. I don't know if that is because he hasn't adapted to CS2. I don't know if that's because he was never really a tactical coach at all. Or I don't know if he's making so much money that it's hard for him to focus. Because we've seen that with players before. We saw that was the death of the original Golden 5 VP lineup with Neo, Taz, all those guys, is that once they started making 30K a month, you never really cared about them again. Like they just stopped caring.
Maui, let me answer. Let me tell you this before Duncan steps in. The thing is, like, if you are making 30, 50, 40, 50,000 a month as a coach, you're not a tactical coach. Take 10,000 and hire a staff for you if the org is not going to support it. Like, take a less salary. Say, listen, I want to, instead of 40, I want to get 30. But I want 10K to be like distributed to these like tactical people. 2 people. One will be that I trust in. I go around the scene. I see who is a good analyst, who is a good assistant coach. I put one as a defensive, one as an offensive, on the T side and the CT side, and that's how I help myself. No, I'm just gonna grab all the money. I'm gonna put all the tactical responsibilities on the fucking team or whoever is in the team. Then I'm just gonna fucking clap my hand and say good job or bad job. And also, what is that Lars doing as well? Making sure they're eating bananas enough and fucking micronutrients. Like, where is the fucking psychological aspect of that guy as well? Because he seems to be talked about so much that he's the best in the business, and they keep losing 12-5, 12-3s advantages.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole fucking point of my hot take. Like, all these things together, like, they make a pretty fucking clear picture.
Yeah, I just to be flat about it also, like, I thought this Falcons team was guaranteed to be a real top 6 contender, I'd say. Like, you take the heroic core that made top 8 at the major, then you add Nico, who is just like still like a top 3 rifler in the game, and whatever, Magisk is a side grade to Shush in my eyes, but still it's not bad. And they're 9th, but like barely holding on to that, and it's mostly just because of the points they've already gotten in the past. Like,
yes.
You know, everything has gotten worse, and like I don't know if I can really watch anymore. Like, is ZONIC gonna make me think another IGL that I rated pretty highly is bad again? Because I've seen it now with Snappy, and I'm seeing it with Kicksand. Like, I don't think these are bad IGLs, but once they work with ZONIC, they just get 40% worse. So yeah, I think I okay. You know what? Yeah, okay, flat out. I agree. I agree with the take.
No, everybody's getting worse. Who made those calls? Like, who made those calls to bring those people? Coach plus whoever is like in charge, the head of esports, head of fucking brain trust there that doesn't know what the fuck are they doing. Go, Duncan.
My problem with the take is, so much of the way you built it up was just about the fucking 17 seconds of timeout video you saw. Like, what I don't get is, if I were you, I wouldn't have over-indexed into that part. I'd have just said stuff like use a sports angle. If you have a lot of budget and you don't win and you're supposed to be on like a big club in football, yeah, you get fired. That's how it goes. By the way, that goes whether you're on Real Madrid. If people even made the argument, and it wasn't a terrible argument, that maybe even though they'd just given him a contract, maybe Guardiola would get fired from Man City, because you remember at one point in time, they looked like they were going to go down to like 7th or something insane in the league. So, like, I don't hate that angle. I do think there are certain clubs that are like, we need to win now. We've given you the money. Where the results, like, that is a certain culture some people want. The reason I find this a bit puzzling to me is within all of the stuff you said, this is why I pulled Maui up on the like, Mouse and Eternal Fire are not bad. It's like, mate, if they're not bad, there's one team in the Counter-Strike that's good. It's just Vitality, that's it. Like, what are we even doing if they're not bad? Like, what I don't get is, why sex up the story? Like, if they're bad and they're losing to everyone and they're not even good in the game, then why not mention, Kassad, in your entire rant that Nico didn't join the team? Why is that not relevant?
What was that?
Right, so you just mentioned about how ZONIC, one of the main reasons, one of the number, like, pillar one of why he must be fired is he didn't get any results last year. Are we going to pretend that Nico didn't essentially do, like, the ultimate saboteur move, let you build the whole squad, say, I'm definitely coming, and then the second he's about to put pen to paper, go, joke's on you, I'm off, see ya. Like, are we going to pretend that didn't happen?
But is that the whole reason why they sucked the?
Did I say that? You didn't even mention it. You didn't even mention it. Wasn't even worth mentioning. Why would I mention it? Right. So
why would I mention it when the lineup was supposed to be good enough?
No, and in no universe was that lineup without Nico supposed to be good enough to win tournaments. That's a ridiculous statement.
Supposed to be good enough, not to win, to be competitive. I didn't say anywhere that they should win all the titles. And your comparison about Manchester City and Pep Guardiola, okay, let's take it like that, because Falcons should be Manchester City, right? In a theory. Or Paris Saint-Germain. But let's say Manchester City. Manchester City, the first season with Pep Guardiola, was third in the fucking thing. They lost in the quarterfinals of FA Cup or Carabao Cup or whatever the fuck. And they lost at the round of 16 of Champions League. Okay. That's just the first season. 6 seasons after, they were top 1 club, except for that one season where the Liverpool won. They won the Champions League, they won the triple, they won everything. 6 titles. And they, the players turned them down. They didn't get all the players in the first and the second season. They got your Sergio Aguero. They got all these, Fernandinhos and all these fucking players. And they didn't get, whoever is the best. They didn't get Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi for Barcelona. Because Nico is kind of a Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever you want to compare him right now. They still win 6 titles in Premier League, which is the hardest league to win a title in. Falcons have done nothing. Yes, Nico fucked their plans. Yeah, he did. That's fair for you to say. I'm not denying it. But not in the sense that they're this bad. Bad to the point that they cannot, Maui said it nicely, they cannot reach out of the group stage to the playoffs of the fucking Pro League. That's not even a tier 1 event.
Here's my problem. You guys made it sound so bad, but it's actually like, for me, it's right on the line of like, that, like, you don't need a lot for like them to be in every single one of these playoffs. Like, they're not even a million miles off. Like, if you look at the list of teams they've lost to, so they lost to Payne, by the way. Payne aren't even bombs. Like, they're playing a lot of teams close. I agree with the 3D Max one. By the way, a few episodes ago, Maui was saying they're one of the best team sides in the world. Like, everyone else is loving 3D Max. I think they shouldn't beat them. I'm with you on that. They lost to Mouse twice. Mouse beats everyone except Vitality. They lost to Eternal Fire twice. Eternal Fire beat a lot of teams in Counter-Strike. And the one that I think's dodgy is when they lost to G2 at Katowice. But even then, like, whatever. Like, that was a close game too. They've beaten Mouse. By the way, very few other teams have. They've beaten Eternal Fire, one of the best teams in the world. They've beaten FaZe, who maybe is a bit more sketch. Like, if you look at the results, like, they're this close in most of these series to winning. They could have been in the playoffs. Like, that's why I made it about, is it about winning tournaments? Like, is this like, here's what I don't get about it. I'll do the same thing people did with the Huxley argument. If I fire ZONIC tomorrow, by the way, I just told you, there's a sporting angle by which you could fire him. You've had essentially 2 entire roster worths of players and you haven't got results yet. By the way, even if I'm doing but you could I'm paying you to get the results, right? Is the argument, right? Here's the question, though, kassad. If I fire ZONIC today, this is a hot take, admittedly. If I fire him today, who am I getting to replace him? Like, who's coming in the door that's going to do a better job with this squad and make them, like, playoff team? Like, you think there's a lot of people can do it?
Yeah, not a lot, but there are multiple options right now in the market. Right?
But I mean,
like
people you can get, though. Like, presumably you can't get Blade, we're going to assume that. Let's take him off the board for a second. Right? Beyond that, though, what are you doing? Are you getting side Who are you getting aside from that? Which coach are you bringing in?
Yeah, you approach Ash, for example. Like,
okay.
Maybe he... Put him up. See what he can do. He has earned enough credit to be in that spotlight.
Sure, but I will say, to give you the sporting example, he's David Moyes, mate. For all you know, we don't know yet. We can't know. Maybe it'll go awesome.
He could be Erik ten Hag.
Maybe. By the way, I'm with you. I do think, like in sports, they've earned their shot. It's just you can't know that if you give them the Nikos in the world, they'll operate the same way, right?
But it would be a fair shot that he wouldn't be paid fucking millions of dollars.
I don't think it's a bad take.
The thing is, like, it's just money spent against what you got. If they were progressively better through the months, and then you can see the clear improvements on stuff. Remember 2024, they started with a hot Katowice run, right? Semifinals. They did. And I was fine. Listen, semifinals, that's more than, enough, considering everything. After that, just full drop. Missed one major, missed second major, changed players, got Dupree, then got Simple to stand in, kicked some pies, brought back fucking people, then bought another core. Like, what the fuck are you doing? That's the whole point. What the fuck are you doing with all this funding? Like, I understand, like, the Saudis, they don't care, but they just pocket change for them. But, it's at some point they would want a result. Like, they're not fools. Like, they're not idiots. These people are not idiots. They will want result or they will
put it this way. Away. What would make this more convincing to me is this, kassad. If I actually did know, and I don't know this, sadly, like, even when I've heard stories I've mentioned on this show in the past, like, I've heard, for example, so let's just say some people within Falcons asked for Malbs before he went to G2. They already identified this is like a shit hot player. Let's get him in. He could even be our Boros sort of guy. And I was told they just didn't get given him, which, by the way, sounds to me, it was delivered to me, kassad, more like all those stories you'll have heard back in the day from Yanko and Nico about how in FaZe you'd be like, just sign this player, and then they would never get it done. They'd go away, they'd listen, and then suddenly 2 months later, you're like, what's going on? Where's the player? And then you find out that they haven't even like started the negotiation. It made it sound like that. So my problem is this, kassad. If I really knew that it was actually ZONIC's decision, like he was like, actually, Dupree's the right player, then I'd say fire him tomorrow. If I knew it was like Simple will save everything, then fire him. Totally kiss. But I don't know. In those scenarios, I'm a bit torn. Part of me thinks, like, for example, in the Dupree, when he was willing to gamble because it's his boy and he had all the success and vitality in Australia. But part of me also feels like he was sort of painted into a corner, and he probably had quite a bad shortlist of players there. Like, I don't think he had a shortlist, kassad, that said, like, fucking, I mean, I couldn't say Nertz and Spink sadly because they're Israeli and we know that angle fucking ruins it.
Yeah,
but let's say the list was, like, I'm assuming it also wasn't Nico because he was going to join at the end of the year. But let's say the list was other top players. Let's say it was Exertion, like, he's Israeli too, whatever. Pick someone, I don't know, fucking Torji, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Real players that could join. I don't think it was a list like that and then he picked Dupree off that list. I imagine if it was Dupree, the rest of the list was like config, you know, like some ridiculous ones that no one would join from, you know.
The thing is, like, there was a list that you can do and loan players. Like, you don't have to go to Dupree, who is 31 years old. You put him on a spot that he doesn't play just because he's a free agent, and you still pay him over, like, 20,000 or whatever the fuck was it. Isn't it better to pay less monthly and pay a loan to
essentially, my argument is
most...
I'd need to know how much of the GMing actually ZONIC was involved in. If he was involved, then fire him. Because, by the way, I said this when Dupree joined. I never thought that was ever the move. That never made any... To me, Dupree was so...
Let's think logically.
But it's weird. To me, that move, for real, Kassad, is like signing Rain and then saying he's going to be your Nico. It's like, it's so many years gone now, mate. Like, that's not even a role they can conceivable play. Like, you would never put them in that role. So, to me, I do think that's a bridge too far.
And also, the thing is, like, with this, like, planning, the more money you have, the more money is involved, the scaling is so much bigger, right? And the responsibilities are much bigger. You're not running a $20,000 operation there. You are running a multi-million-dollar business that you need to be paying attention to. If Nico fucked them over in December and said no, you immediately think of what are we doing with Nico?
Absolutely.
Are we attacking him in June? Are we attacking him in the end of 2024? The same thing is going for MongolZ right now. His contract is expiring. I'm messaging them every 3 days. What's going on? Are we making a deal? Are we not making a deal? What is the offer? Like, doing all these things, planning 6 months ahead. Because once this is over and those 6 months pass and your plan that you have in mind works, then you can start actually playing. They bought this core because that was available. And Heroic just said, like, oh yeah, $few million. Okay, boom. And then the same thing happened. They were panicking back in November 2023 or December. They were panicking last year. And now they didn't learn their mistakes. So is it ZONIC? Is it that fucking Grant? Is it Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia himself? I don't know who it is. Whoever it is, he should be fine.
Anyway, I will just say this. 2 things. One, I think that's why I said to me, if I were you, I would have just focused on he hasn't accomplished anything yet and it's a team that demands results or you've had millions he didn't. I think that's a stronger argument. I think the 2 arguments of, like, you're losing all these close games, so it's your fault. It's like, I don't even get that. Because, by the way, here's what I don't get about why you'd even build that up. You just did the Kicksan comparison. Bro, Heroic was terrible at fucking closing games out. That was when your boy Saw was there. Kicksan and Saw combined lost. Mate, they should have beaten Navi and won IM Rio. They should have won fucking Elisa Masters. They should have beaten G2 at the fucking major. They had a million teams right on the hook and they let him go. So I'm sorry, I have to say, I think Kicksan is definitely not sure he's some super clutch closer. He's had those issues in other teams, so it's not as simple for me.
Absolutely.
And also that angle of, like, I now think he was a semi-fraud in fucking Astralis and Vitality. Child, please. Like, first of all, that would be like saying, cause Cold Zero socks now, he was never the best player in Counter-Strike. He can be bad one year and really good in the past. Like, you can have variable form. You can have reasons outside the game. Like you're saying, you can have reasons like when you're super hungry and you're way up and you're building your rep, you tend to be more driven than when you have already got the rep and it's like, can he do it again? I agree with you on that psychology. So I just think you went a bit too hard on that one, especially because
no,
if it had only been Astralis, that's an easier argument. Mate, where was Glaive in Vitality? Did I miss something? No one
there was Zyvo with Vitality.
And not a single person that year told me Apex was the best IGL. I'll tell you that much.
Sorry?
In 2023, no human in the world ever said Apex is the best IGL.
No, but they multiple humans said the Zyvo is the best player. But it doesn't really matter. That's beside the point. What I'm trying to say is here, like, for people thinking that we are trashing ZONIC, me particularly, and I want him to take away.
You did say if he went to another team, he could have success.
It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Like, the guy is still, despite the failure, he's still one of the greatest, most successful coaches in the history of the game.
Kassad, I'll give you a great example of a coaching case in football very recently like this. So you know Thomas Tuchel, who just got announced as the England manager now, and everyone thinks that's a great move because if you're a fan of England, you know the problem is it's a cop competition, and that guy was the shit at, like, Chelsea and other squads in cops, right? But he did just do that year when he went to Bayern Munich and he had Harry Kane and Bayern Munich always wins the Bundesliga and he didn't win. And by the way, that's totally fine if you then fire him for that reason. Like, you had everything. Everyone expected you to do it. You didn't. But I agree with you. It doesn't mean you'd shit. That's what. It's more the Maui angle on that one. Like I don't know why.
It means that he fucked up this project completely. That's
could
why
say that,
I
yeah,
want him
if you
removed
want.
there and then put someone else, and you go somewhere else, and you might have success. Like there's nothing like questionable about that.
But it's weird. The last thing I'll say is this.
Current Falcons
I
project.
do think that the 17-second timeout thing's overblown, though. The real reason why is this, Kassad.
No, it's not.
Because here's the
I
problem.
have been a part of timeouts, Duncan. I know what it is.
You do, well, here's the problem.
Million
mate.
timeouts.
You literally don't need to fucking speculate based on a public timeout. Mate, you can DM any player you want. Privately, ask them all. I could get this information tomorrow. Privately ask them, is it like that in other timeouts? Is this like, was that a one-off? Did they catch him on a bad moment and then they highlighted it to make him look stupid? Or is that like a real trend? If it's a real trend, by the way, eventually this guy will be exposed. Eventually there will be the interviews years down the line where people like, he didn't really do anything. He was just there for moral support, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Although, by the way, I'll never downplay that aspect. Spoiler, I'll tell you right now, Maui, you know all that, like, where's the moral support? Team Liquid never had that aspect, and I think that's one of the reasons they weren't any fucking good with the dread. Like, the guy used to stand behind him and go, oh, well, lol, guess we lose again. Like, that's why I always used to say, I wish my boy Zeus had stayed. That was his, like, fucking specialty. It was exactly that sort of thing.
And Meter is like ZONIC on steroids.
I was talking about Liquid
like,
from years ago in 2019, mate, but never mind. It's all good.
Okay, never mind. But I'm trying to say, like, now they were going for the same type of coach and they just kicked it, basically. But in 2019, yeah, they were lacking that. They had, like, whatever.
Well, I think everybody's noticing this. I think we just experienced this in Lisbon. A lot of the people that were at the Blast event. But obviously, spring is in the air. It's getting a little bit warmer. And, things are heating up in the calendar. The majors approaching and all that. But I think it's safe to say that we're all going to be going outside just a little bit more. So we obviously have to make sure we don't stink, and we all know our favorite deodorant, Mando. They are now selling their whole body deodorant, and this has been really good for me. I'm even probably just going to get this as gifts for people. So if you guys are interested in using Mando and smelling like me, I know that's maybe not the best sell ever, but trust me, it works. It's a good thing. It is a good thing, in fact. Kassad's face on that one. You could go to www.shopmando.com. And really, this is just one of the best ways to support us. Use our promo code HOTTAKE, and you will actually get $5 off the starter pack. Once again, starter pack has been such a blessing in terms of just getting to try out all their products. Now I know what scents I like. I'm even going to go back and try some more scents from them. But I think the Fuji scent has easily been my favorite in general. I think all of us have used this at one point. And yes, be sure to go to www.shopmando.com to support Hot Take Point Made, your favorite podcast.
Yes, indeed. Thank you to everyone who does. I also do like the soaps, and we've mentioned it on the other ones. We didn't do it every time, but it does have the thing where it's really good at like blocking the odor smell, basically, and it does for like 72 hours and all that jazz. Right, next one is going to be by you, Mauisnake. Do you have a take?
Yes. So my take is actually a positive. It's a positive. I have one take that I want to do later, like no matter where this show goes, because I just want your guys' opinion on it. But this one is one where I'm just making a hot take. This is one where obviously people are going to get mad about this one. I'm sure you guys will. And I had to find the difference between Scandinavian and Nordic to see how hot I want to make this one, because I was thinking, okay, I could say the best Scandinavian, but I think it's even better if I say best Nordic. So the take is off of the tournaments we've seen so far from Maus. Brollan is the current best Nordic in-game leader.
So he's intentionally doing that to make him above LXEB there, Kassad, because Scandinavia wouldn't count Finland, I believe, is the criteria. So he's saying Brollan's better than LXEB.
And Kerrigan. And Cadian, of course.
I mean, it's still that needed said, but okay, we get it. Okay.
And Snappy.
okay, we're doing them all the classics.
No, the Scandinavian region, Nordic region has obviously been so strong for in-game leaders for such a long time. No Norwegian ones to really talk over Icelandic at that point. But I mean, in terms of Sweden, Finland, Denmark, there's so many great IGLs to pick from. But lately, I mean, I'm even saying this from the calls too. Okay, I feel like the actual calls from Maus are, in terms of game planning, are so strong that it has helped them get deep into these tournaments, because I still feel like it's pretty difficult for it's pretty difficult for me to say on paper this is a team that is like supposed to be number 2 based off of the players on the team. So obviously something has to prop it up. And I feel like if you look at the players on, say, G2, like, do we really think the players on Maus are like that much better? Like, you got m0NESY over Torzi for one, Heavy God for Yimpat. Yeah, I'd do the edge to Yimpat there. Malbs versus Exertion. I mean, in the last year, Malbs was, in terms of like top 20 status, Malbs was pretty much, well, Malbs was higher than Exertion, by the way, and he played half of the year. So I feel like the only player that you say 1-for-1 is just clearly better is Spinks over like Hunter, for example. So, I mean, he's doing way better with his pieces there. Lately, FaZe with their pieces are doing way worse than Maus. Navi's doing worse than Maus lately, and they have some pretty good pieces too. Like, I'd say Brollan's a better in-game leader right now. Brollan has proven to me at Cluj, Pro League, and now this event, the Lisbon event, that he's a better in-game leader than Alexi, Kerrigan. Take your pick.
Maui, you went to Colombia, right? Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Ivy League? Yeah?
Yes.
So, I need to tell you this. So, few years
Oh, you mean
back-
the university? I thought you were going to say he was on cocaine or something. He must be on like the purest shit from Colombia.
no.
Fair enough. Okay, right.
No. A few years back at Cornell University, right, there was this piece of equipment called the tunneling electron microscope, right?
Where's this going?
It was so powerful that firing electrons, you can actually see the images of an atom, right?
Okay.
The actual images. Now, if I were using that microscope right now,
Would it be
I
meant
still
for
wouldn't be
something
able to see any fucking percentage or atom of the truth of what you said.
That was a bit complicated, but okay, I get it. Okay, it's all good. Okay,
I just like
I
the
know,
prepped
I know.
comebacks. after
It didn't
every
really
round.
land it that well, did it? It was a big good bet. Listen, the build-up was sick, but the landing was a bit. weak, but I know,
yeah.
It's all good.
I thought he was gonna look for gray matter in my
I know.
brain or something.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something like that. Exactly. Yeah. Like he looked inside your
the
brain and he
same
realised
thing.
atoms are empty or something like that. You know, some shit like that. Like What's wrong about it? What's wrong about the take? Come on.
The Alexi, the Carrigan, you're just basing that on the last 2 months, 3 events, right? Cluj, Pro League, whatever, Lisbon, right? And then at the same time, you are comparing last year's, Malb's, stats to another player. So make up your mind. Are we looking at the last year or are we looking at the last 3 events? Because if you're looking at the last year, obviously Brollan wasn't on IGL, so he couldn't be better than any of them. But if you look at the last 3 months, then yeah, he's the best IGL on the fucking planet then, right? Together with Apex, next to Apex, behind Apex, whatever, right? So overall, saying that, I don't think that has the only legs that they have on it is on the basics of the last 3 events. Yes, they did play well. It looks good. It looks fluent. The calls are fine. But what happens when they get into trouble? What happens when they get into trouble? I know you're going to say that. They lost 13-0. They came back to 2-1 in the grand finals.
They make comebacks. They've made comebacks.
Yes. But in the real trouble, what I mean is like when they lose a single event or a 2 where they didn't play well. How is he going to respond to that? Because we know how Alexi responded after being kicked from G2 and then the disaster in NIP. He responded with the best year of his Counter-Strike and the best year for Navi. We know how Carrigan responded when he got kicked and removed from Astralis or that TSM, whatever the fuck lineup was, got into Maus and then won a bunch of titles, then went to FaZe and then failed and then came back again and then won the major. And we know how he responds. Those are all the IGLs that you skipped over right now because you think the Brollan is better. Does Brollan have the prospect, maybe based on 3 months, to be overall better one day? Yeah, maybe. But that's too soon to say for me. Not even like 2 more, 3 more. The whole season needs to go by for me to actually think that this is going to be a valid IGL that's going to last for multiple years. Because it might easily go this way. They lose 1, 2, 3 events, whatever, right? Whatever the fucking losing streak is. And he goes back to being a player, or they get another IGL. Or he goes to, another team, they get another IGL. Then where are we, right? How can we compare the 2-3 month old IGL, who is like 22 years old, with a tenured basically legendary in our, sport. IGLs like, Alexi and especially Carrigan, who basically won everything, including the major Grand Slam and all these things that comes with it. So at the moment, if you just like zone in the last 3 events, I can see why you're saying it. But overall, to say it, I just think that there is no basis on it at all.
Here's the problem. I actually do disagree with this take. I think it's one of the hottest ones, actually, even though to a fan it's not going to be, because their logic will be, if you're in the finals and you won a tournament, like, he has to be really good, right? If you do a top 3 or top 5, people are going to put his name in there, because beyond that, who gets results after the big names? There's like Apex and that's it. Like, Alexa hasn't done it. No one ever gives Chopper the credit anyway. So right now in the landscape, it's probably the best time to make a call like this. I'm with Kassad, though. The problem I have is this, like, first of all, I do think they are a bit limited, actually, on T-side when you see them play. Like, one of the big factors for me is they have, like this will sound really unfair, but I think they have some of the absolute best, like, plug-and-play pieces for the T-side. Like, think about it. We were talking before about how Flames and Rops is perfect because there's no overlap. Exertion and Spinks might even be better at those roles with no overlap. Like, that's fucking dopamine. Like, Exertion gets to go in, and then Spinks is going to be one of the best trade fraggers on T-side in all of Counter-Strike, mate. Like, he won't fail to get the kill. Like, this guy can already win like a normal duel anyway. If he's facing someone where he knows where you are and you're low health, he's going to hit that AK shot, mate. He tears people up right now. And then also, to me, I look at them, and on T-side especially, like, pretty soon, this is why I think their Dust 2 is insane. Like, their map win rate on that map is insane. But then you go and look, like they can beat the best teams in the world in it, but they don't have always the craziest, like, raw percentage. But if you ever watch them play it, mate, you would hit them, Maui. Like, if you co-stream, you must be on your TL shit. They do 1 million mid to Bs. It's just like, what? And by the way, they also do, like, the noob shit, which I can't believe is still a thing in Counter-Strike. Like, you literally know it's the 30-second timer that they're going in on. They're not even doing, like, go in now. It's like, go in on 30 seconds. You can see on the clock when they run in. Like, so the problem I have is, I think a lot of what gets them those T rounds is, like, having amazing players. This is why I'd go the other way, because I look at their team and I think everyone except Brollan is like top 3 to 4 in the game at their role. Like, I wasn't even a Torji fan, but right now he's cooking. He's looking really good right now. He probably is 3rd or 4th best AWPer. Yimfat is easily the best in his roles. Exertion sort of got it back again, even if he has the up and down performances. And then Spinks actually is killing it as a lurker. He's going to be one of the best in Counter-Strike right now. So I look at everyone else. Everyone else is really, really good. I also think as a team, another thing that I look to if I'm going to look at the IGL is, like, I don't think their map pool is actually that crazy. I know they don't lose to teams, but the reason why their map win rate is scuffed is, aside from the couple of maps they're really good on, they're just all over the place. Like, one day they lose to a team on Dust 2, then they beat a different team that's better on Dust 2. Then the next day they win on Mirage and you go, fuck, this team's really good. And then they just lose to anyone on that map. Like, I think they're all over the place on the Dust 2, the Mirage, the Infernos. These are the maps where it's like, I don't know the rhyme or reason as to when they're good. And then lastly, the joke is, if I say that in all those other roles, they're all top 3 and top 4, the only one who isn't is Brollan, but that was what you require for this take, is you need him to be the one who's, like, super, super good. Because here's my problem with this move, is if I compare them to all the other IGLs out there, I'll give you Apex has a better squad. After that, who really has a better squad? Like, I think you were being too generous with that G2 take. I think the G2 roster is, like, individually, they're, like, theoretically good players. Like, I don't know, I think you were way too generous there. Like, Malbs is better than Exertion. Mate, let me know that when Malbs is the star player who carries the team, Exertion had to be the man. Bro, his best players were Yimfat and Torji. Like, if you were Malbs, you had Nico and MongolZ. Bro, the, like, level of pressure that is taken off you is bonkers there. And also, you get to kill people after Nico and MongolZ have fought them. I've always thought that's the most underrated thing in Counter-Strike when we look at stats. It's like, mate, it's like that concept of, like, the Warriors when they had their dynasty, Maui. The reason you can't judge any player in isolation is because Durant and the most OP thing is Durant and Curry were playing off each other. They're supposed to be the one guy you double team every game. The point was you could never double team everyone on their team. That's what these squads feel like. Vitality, Mouse, like there's too many good players. You can't shut them down. Like you could put all, you know how teams clearly do, by the way, put like insane hours into trying to neutralize Donk. If you did that to Vitality or Mouse, the other players would just kill you. It's like the analogy would be the open man would just hit the shot when you double team him and this case. So here's the thing, I don't hate it, Maui. Like, put it this way, I will admit this. This last finals run especially has at least planted the seed. He's doing something. It reminds me of when Huxley won all those prestige events. I had to say, I still don't think he's one of the best IGLs. I definitely don't think he's the best. But even though I do think, again, similar scenario, you have 4 sick players who all do their job, you have to be doing something. Like, it's, even though we said on that last episode, maybe Kane did win a fluke major because they didn't do anything outside of that. If you actually were making like 3 finals in a row, though, you've got to at least be competent at your job. Like, I could believe Brollan's making all right calls. Or, like Huxley, he's making decent of calls for this squad of players, like this personnel. But put it this way, and I do think we do judge IGLs this way. If I was to take Brollan out and do this example, Maui, so the 2 players you just contrasted him, which would be the spicy ones, is obviously Carrigan and Alexi B, right? If I give Brollan their team tomorrow, does anyone actually think that team's going to be better and is going to suddenly be in finals and winning tournament? That's where I would say it's a good hot take, but I don't know that I buy it personally. I don't think so. Meanwhile, I'll tell you what, mate. If I'm Carrigan or Alexi B and I say, hey, boys, I could arrange for you to wake up tomorrow, take this blue pill, and you're the IGL of Maus. Mate, I think some of those guys would go, fucking hell, yes. They'd be eating blue pills like Pez, mate. Like, they'd be going fucking crazy. So I think it's a good. Here's the thing: these are both really good hot takes, but they are mega spicy for me. It's too high on the court Schofield meter for me on this one, Maui. I can't go with you on this one. I can't go.
I mean, I would just like. I think one thing that I tend to do for like, just like player quality, strength, and stuff like that is like just look at their CT numbers. Okay. And the thing is, like, if you look at like top 10 teams and stuff like that, like Yimpat's ratings on CT side are as good as Reigns right now. Like, and for example, like Exertion is lower than like anybody on FaZe. Okay. And so he's getting more out of these players on the T side than they are doing on them for themselves on the CT side. Like everybody on Maus pretty much is just better on T side, and that's not just because like it's a T-sided game right now. Like they're better on T side than their counterparts on these other teams. So if you even do like just like top 10 players or like top 10 filter and look at the FaZe players on CT side, they're pretty good. They're actually surprisingly good. Like Frozen's better than practically anybody on Maus except for Torzi. And then you look at like Elige and he's as good as Spinks. Okay. Reigns as good as Yimpat, but then on T side, everybody just levels up like crazy. And I went through, and when I was prepping for the finals, I was looking through Skybox Edge a lot at like the strat distribution between Vitality and Maus is practically identical. Like that's why it's very hard to characterize these teams. Actually, like this is kind of a bit of a tangent, but like it's hard to characterize team style right now. Because if you even like look at their strats closely, the only thing I would say that's different about Maus versus Vitality is that Maus go drier. Like they use less nades to take space, and they'll just be like bunched up to take it. And Vitality will usually try to throw a flash. Like they'll usually have like a bit more utility. Maus almost just want their utility a little bit later in the round, and Vitality want it to take the space because they know if they get close enough and they swarm people, I think they're just explosive enough individuals. But like, yeah, it's so like the strats are practically the same between Vitality and Maus.
It's not just that. Vitality has a better IGL in terms of experience as well. Vitality has a superstar in the team. Maus doesn't. Vitality has obviously a better OPER. You know, but that's kind of the same thing as Zyvu argument. And overall, they are in their heads. Like they are, you know, they keep beating them left and right. And even though it was a 3-2, they have the psychological advantage over them. So they are number one clearly over them in every aspect of the game. That doesn't mean that Maus is bad, but it means that Vitality is just better than them. Maus is better than everybody else right now. That's the other thing.
I do appreciate, though, that, like, actually Kassad's main homework isn't even thinking of hot takes. It's just how he does, like, the setup to the hot take Maui. So now he's like, you know this old church father, Thomas Aquinas, you know him, this father of philosophy, and you know he would speculate about what happens to the soul when a newborn dies. Does it go to heaven, or does it still have original sin? And the question we have to ask ourselves is, does this mean ZONIC is to play? Like, where's he going on this? Like, the build-up's crazy, so I hope he keeps that going, because that angle could be a winner. That has legs. Like, I need to keep building up with, like, you know, mythology, philosophy, symbology. I
have a lot of free time on my hand right now. I'm sitting at home and then just reading up on stuff. But yeah, it's your turn, Duncan. Finally. Fuck, it's been an hour.
My take is going to be, last episode I did the Vitality one, I'm going to do the same thing for Apex. I actually think, I'm one of those people, by the way, where if you go back to when it was, like the first year he was the IGL 2021, I remember thinking, like, he's probably doing something because they were, like, better than you expected on land by the end of the year after have been so whack for most of the year. But I was one of those people where, a bit like this Brollan topic, that's why I even thought this was like a perfect segue, actually, that Maui brought that up. He had to win me over. The more that years went by, it had to be like, right, oh, it isn't just Zero that you've got. Oh, wait, it isn't just that you got some Astralis players in ZONIC. And that. I actually think Apex is going to be in CS2, we're already shortly into it, he's going to be one of the greatest IGLs to ever work in CS2. In fact, I'll say right now, he's going to be like top 3 or a contender for the best ever. And the reason I say this is, I actually do think year on year from CSGO, he looks like he's gotten better as an IGL. And it can't just be, by the way, the idea the roster got better, because just roster upgrade doesn't directly scale the IGL, like it's a permanent factor. Sometimes even people get a better roster, it doesn't work out. Think about how it went. In 2021, he had that scuffed roster with Georgian and Masuta. By the way, I think Masuta was like just at the level that's acceptable for a tier 1 pro. I don't think Georgian was ever even a real pro Counter-Strike player for me. He's actually a guy that proves Counter-Strike Go wasn't Call of Duty. It isn't just about having reflexes. Like, that guy was ass on fucking land. Like, he was actually, you really were playing 4v5 at times. But you look at the results he was getting, they were contended to be like second or third best team in the world at the end of that year. Then you go to, he had the initial roster with the Astralis players before he got Spinks, so he maybe lacked a little bit of firepower, right? That was an up and down roster. That was a hard one. Maybe that was like his sophomore period, the troublesome area when you having to adapt to the international roster. By the way, it's no joke going from all French, speaking in French, culturally French to we're an international team, as a lot of people have found out. Then you go to 2023. I actually think they did crack it. He figured out how to use Spinks. They won that major. They won Rio. They could have won that blast right afterwards. Then they won the game as 8 before ZONIC left. Then towards the end of the year, they got everything together with the new roster and they won the 2 blasts. Right, last year, yeah, I'll give you this. They didn't win enough trophies. I do think that roster had the potential to win everything. They won Cologne, though, which is a mega trophy, and I do think they were in position to win a lot. And actually, a lot of the times last year, I will say this. One of the reasons I was harsh on people like Ziwu, or the idea that they had some sort of like personality conflict in that team, is I've seen tournaments he lost and came in the semis where I thought he called a great tournament still. I don't think it was him that was doing the bad calls. And then, you know, all the rest that he was letting his team down. I thought actually he still did a very, very good job. He would have still been like a top 3 or 4 IGL for me last year. And this year, I actually think it's unbelievable. And by the way, miss me everyone who's going to now recontextualize history, where what they're going to do is this, I can tell you already. They're going to pretend 2024 ROPS didn't happen, and this is like 2023 ROPS just walked in the door. It was an obvious upgrade. And everyone, no, actually, on paper, by the way, I still think Spinks is a better fragger than ROPS currently. And ROPS actually looked like he was lost in phase towards the end. I think the way he's adjusted and gotten that guy into the team, everything's worked. And lastly, I'll throw this in there. The last tournament and a half, I have also seen something I never saw from this team before, which is, remember the famous fix they made with Spinks in 2023 to start winning, was they realised, right, we can't play like Astralis, we can't do super slow, we've got to go up top. They don't even do that now. Now they, for real, have a full gearbox with all 5 gears on it, Kassad. They can do, I saw this against both Mounts in the final and when they played MongolZ at Pro League, they can play slow. They can play disciplined even. They can just do stuff like on CT, they stay on the sites and don't ever peek you, don't ever give a free kill. On T side, they can slow the game right down and use utility and actually properly like use like the build-up of the play. It's actually, they're doing actual real tactical play, while at the same time we're all looking at the numbers and the fragging and going, he has the best players. Like, I think he's actually like become, I won't say he's mastered IGL, but he's become one of the real elite IGLs in Counter-Strike. Like, he has a game that goes beyond just he's got Ziwu and he's got really good players. I actually think, for real, to answer that question that I asked Maui, if I did give him Mouse or FaZe or these other or Na'Vi, I think he would do something. I don't know that they'd win the tournament. I don't even know if you can always do that, but I think he would still be a really good IGL and he would get a lot out of these players and he would actually showcase like his own flair for the game. And it isn't just Ziwu go kill. It's, in fact, if anything, I would say the craziest thing I never expected when he's working with Ziwu is I actually think he is the Ziwu whisperer. I think other people couldn't get through to this guy. I think Alex really did just think you throw your flashes and just hope he kills people. I think that was kind of how they were with Ziwu back then. They just treated him like some special gifted kid and go, whoa, hands off, kid gloves, don't want to fuck with him. I think actually Apex is the guy who sort of knows when to be the fucking hype man in Ziwu's ear and when to even like fuck with him a bit. If you notice, Apex does that Phil Jackson thing, Maui. He actually uses the media to almost call Ziwu out in a way or almost be like, hey, they think Simple's better than you. That is dope. Everyone wants that. We all love those fucking narratives, you know.
I think Zywoo's tone this year about like fuck online and saying the things that he's saying is inspired by Apex actually. I think he's starting to get a little bit more fiery and care. Yeah, I know he still sometimes tries to make the like super cool statement of like I don't care that I passed simple or whatever, but it's like Zywoo's definitely saying a little bit more this year about how much he cares about these kinds of things. And I'm not sure if it's that he never cared about simple or that he cared about donk or that Apex has been his year, but like it's a bunch of things at the same time. I mean, I think that I look back at my voting history for the like panel for the HLTV awards, and in 2023 I had Apex number 1. In 2024 I had Apex number 2, and if I voted this year I'd have him number 1 again. So it's like 3 consecutive years for me being a top 2 IGL. And I have a hard time believing 3 months into this year that he's going to be out of my top 3. Like, it's very safe to say that he's going to be a top 3 IGL with already, even if the body of work collapses, he's already won enough this year that it's pretty unlikely that somebody sneaks in above him. So I like the idea also that it's like if you put him on another team, because he's definitely a guy that's just like he's still clearly in a position of playing at a super high level for a reason. His work ethic and mentality is constantly being renewed. He's not a player that to me also like has ever struck me as like how do I say, like a toxic ego for himself. He's not like
Maui, that's one thing that gets missed, because he does the flamboyant on camera stuff. What people don't know is off camera, look, part of that is his personality. He's a silly like character. He likes to do jokes and be in bar stuff. But I'll tell you what, he's a very serious professional, Maui. I can tell you this guy actually, it's why me and him get along. By the way, he doesn't get offended if I say Simple's better than Zywoo. He would have that discussion. He'd be like, well, here's the reasons why. He's like a really diligent pro too. Yeah. Keep going anyway.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's just that his ego doesn't get in the way of change. As far as I can tell, he's to me renewed himself as an individual from moving from entry fragger to in-game leader. But even his ideas for CS:GO to CS2 have seemingly paid off too. Like he knows the amount that you should disrespect smokes in this game, and I think that some of the IGLs, for example, probably don't do it as well as they do. Like, I think the way that Vitality is so much more explosive, even in the face of opponent's utility. Like they can get through it in ways, and that does speak to player quality. But I think it's also Apex realizing when is it a good time to go and not a good time to go. Like watching Navi in some way, they don't even play around it as well as I feel like Vitality do nowadays. So yeah, no, I feel like it's. I mean, we have to see how long CS2 go. I mean, it's always one of those like,
that's what makes it a hot take. Yeah. But
yeah.
But I think he has a real chance. I'm pretty sure, Maui, like you just said there, the body of work is underrated at this point in time. People really do just think he had Zywoo or something, mate.
Yeah, I feel the good thing about Apex and like making Vitality takes today is I just feel like they're gonna age well. I just feel like it's almost right now. It's a fun hot take because it's like these are ones that are like. At the beginning, you say this is going to be a Vitality era, and it sounds really good, but it's almost like if you don't see this, you might be the crazy one.
Come on then, Kassad, where you going on this one?
First of all, I guess the saying of the day is the body of work. Whatever the fuck does that mean?
It's what you claimed Zywoo doesn't have. I mean, ZONIC
is this a feminine phrase? Is this too feminine of a phrase?
I don't know. I never heard of it. You said it like at least 4 times in the last hour. Body of work. The fuck is that? But let's go back to the fucking point. The Apex IGL, that's something that saved his career, right? Absolutely. If he stayed on as a player, he would be gone long time ago, right? The thing is, like, the best thing about him that's gonna put him in this category of being the top 3 is, as you said, maybe of CS2, right? Is that what your hot take is, kind of? Well, or exactly? The question is, CS gonna be for that long? How long he's gonna play? Whatever, right? There are arguments. The thing is, like, the most positive thing that I can see is that he's projecting to the team and to the public, to the fans inside the game, the aura of a captain, right? That's what he's. Even though he's not the best player, you know who the captain is. Like you see Vitality walking towards you, you know who the captain is. It's not Zywoo, it's not fucking Flames, it's Apex, So that's one thing. The second thing is he's obviously a very vocal person. You said he is not gonna get salty because you say Nico is better than Zyvo, or Simple is better than Zyvo, or Donk. He's gonna argue with you, like because of this or that. Doesn't really matter who wins the argument there. He's gonna argue, right? Well, inside the game, he's vocal. He has this stress releases that he's like waving his arms, yelling, screaming. Like, I don't mind that. For me, that's fine. The one thing we don't know is the interpersonal, relationships and how he deals with like a lack of discipline, lack of other stuff in game that kind of childish things. Does he get frustrated? Does he get does he let the coach do? Does he get and does he deal with it in a healthy way now that he's older and one of the veterans? Also, we don't know that. That's something that I would like to know, or from different people, or from himself. So those are all the kind of the positive things when it comes to him right now. The longevity can be a problem. How long can he keep it up? Does Vitality at some point going to have another plans for another IGL when they start losing? I don't think so. I don't think he is going to be, a person that's going to be removed from the lineup. Even though they do badly, because there were times when they were not so good, like you said at the very beginning of the argument, Duncan, in 2021 and 2020 Suta and the Kyojin and the 6-man roster and all this shit. On top of everything, he has Zyvu, and Zyvu together with him has one of the true contenders for the GOAT spot. And obviously Zyvu has his qualities, but it did help to have a veteran like that, in Apex, right? Somebody who can, be his kind of a guide through all of this as an IGL, right? But the question maybe I have for you, Duncan, is: do you think? Yes, you said at the beginning that he has become better and better over time. Yeah, over the years as an IGL. I agree. That's fine. Do you think he's a better IGL with Xtaz or with ZONIC? Because right now, last year you said they had a lineup that should have been more competition, was obviously fierce, right? That was.
Put it this way, to reference the first point of this show, Kassad, I genuinely think it wouldn't have been unfair for Vitality to fire X-Stars having that roster and getting one trophy.
Also, maybe I can rephrase the question. Do you think he would be the same guy with the same success if he brought ZONIC with him to?
That's hard to know.
ZONIC stayed with him.
And one of the reasons I think that's hard to know is actually what people probably don't know. This is actually a good time to reference this, Kassad. Is if you saw when they won the championship, you will have seen on camera, it wasn't just Xtaz who was there. They have that Matt guy who used to be in fucking Clan Niska, all that shit, and used to be a 1.6 player. That guy's there, and as far as I know, him and Xtaz, even when ZONIC was there, they credited them when they won the Blast Paris and said that they were behind the scenes, like helping as part of the coaching staff or something. So as far as I know, because actually within Vitality, it's implied they have more than just the IGL, just the coach. They actually have like a staff of people and they know like the work distribution. So it sounds like they've got a good setup, whether or not I think Xtaz is the good coach or not. Like it sounds like whatever pairing they have works. That's an interesting question. Put it this way, in some ways, knowing what potentially we might know about ZONIC now, I'd probably give him more props if he had ZONIC now, because I don't think he was like the tactical genius. I mean, by the way, I always thought it was Glaive that did most of it. I thought ZONIC's whole stuff. The reason why I've never understood that whole angle is, and who is the person, guys, who built up this narrative about ZONIC? Because what I don't get is, ZONIC wasn't an in-game leader in 1.6. I've always told people this. I've never got what that take is. Like, that, to me, he was the person who was like the secondary caller with the IGL. So I couldn't, so to me, that's why coach even makes a lot of sense. You're just doing that again as the coach. That's why it's not terrible. The idea is supposed to contribute in the timeout. So I don't know. I figure out Xtaz and him. It's just the problem is they've got insane history together, haven't they? They've been around like, what, 6 or 7 years it goes back now or something? It's been quite a long time at this point.
I think that narrative about the coach is like, when you have so much titles, majors, and everything, it kind of comes with it. Like everybody was glorified in that Astralis lineup, no matter who they are or what they did or what we know or didn't know. Sure. Everybody was glorified because they were, winning everything for multiple years, right? It's still number one team to ever, like the best team, whatever, right? And he was a part of that team, whatever he did, right? And that comes back to the point that we are not trashing like his accomplishments or his image, just the project of Falcons. But the thing is with Apex, I think he got everything that he deserved with this success, right? I think he is a player who loves the game. He feels the passion about the game very, very much. I think he's invested in this. He invested majority of his life into this thing. He fought for his spot in the teams, even when his skill went down. obviously he's not perfect. Nobody fucking is. But I think and he got a great organization behind him. You know, if you think about it, like
for sure.
the moves they made and the money they spent on like some other teams, you know, multiple teams, they have a healthy system. Even before, like, you know, the lineup that they have right now, the one with Kyojin, and that was all a part of that process that evolved into something good. Unlike, again, other teams, right, that they're evolving into fucking nothing. So that's a really kind of pillar, I guess, for him to kind of lean on, and with like, you know, confidence that he can actually be what he needs to be, an IGL captain of the fucking team.
Okay, right. Let's move on. Do you have something else?
Not on this. I had a take though. I had a take.
Right, wait there a second. So first of all, I will say I agree. Zivu's Apex has done a great job representing the Vitality jersey. Now, speaking of apparel, what about Into the M, friends of the show? Obviously, you guys actually, I can say this is one of the best sponsors, both in terms of the quality and for people who actually watch the show. Do buy the apparel. I can tell you, this has been one of the ones that's re-upped many times because actually it's great stuff. People have all enjoyed it. It has lived up to the quality promise, etc. Right now, they have one of their sales going on, so I'll do the usual thing. First of all, I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. I'm wearing this one with like a pastoral Japanese design. Again, I have washed all these shirts loads and loads of times. They're not just like a brand new one out of the box every time, like when a rapper gets the brand new Air Forces out and that's why they're so clean, etc. It actually does genuinely wash like this, and it doesn't like degrading quality or start to fade, etc. It all looks great still. There's a million designs on the website. Also, they have all their classic things where our code always, and whenever you do it gives you a percentage off. It's usually 10% off. In this particular case, they have their bundles where you can get the 3 graphic tees like this for roughly $60 at $61.95. You can get 3 basic tees, just collars with a high quality fabric. You can get 3 of them for $52.95, so around $50. And at the moment they have an Into the AM site-wide sale, everything on their website, certain items up to 60% off until April 6th, Sunday, the end of the week, basically. And you will save the additional 10% using our link, intotheam.com/LFN. That'll always get you the 10%, and it stacks with the discount of the sale. So it's not like if you see an item 60% off, then it can't count like this coupon or whatever. No, it all stacks together. So you would actually get 70% off an item that had the 60% off in the sale. So visit by the way, also, if you want to help us out in the future, we want to do more collaboration gear with them. Like they made a shirt in the past that was like a pirate design or something. So if you go on the Last Free Nation Discord, you can also give us feedback on our latest t-shirt design collaborations with them. There's a channel called the Into the AM Design Feedback Channel. So thank you to everyone who indeed uses intotheam.com/LFN. Go there now, because for the rest of the week they've got an amazing sale on, and the sale stacks with our code, and they have all the bundles as usual. They have loads of different types of apparel on their site, a bazillion different designs of shirts. I think it's actually very, very good. I've worn these on a whole bunch of the shows. Also, I'll even say this, normally I don't wear t-shirts during shows because I get way too warm. I also find theirs isn't too crazy for that. I don't feel I can feel like I can breathe a little bit with the fabric. It's lovely cotton material. It feels great to me. So thank you to Into the AM. Thank you to everyone who supports it. Right, we'll do 2 last takes. So what we'll do, Mo, is we'll do your take, and then we're going to do the promised fan take, and then we'll wrap. So what's your take?
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, my take I think this would fix the current state of the game, because as it stands, it's and so that's why I didn't want to use it as my like actual hot take, but I think it's one that just actually needs to start. We need to start a dialogue here. We need to start an actual conversation. I just think that the game right now, given it's 2T-sided, one simple fix that would make it more exciting and better suit what we think is the way CS should be played, which is defensive minded, is just lower the round timer for 155 to 145. I think this would solve so many of the problems, because as it stands, think of how many rounds in professional play end with a bomb site hit at the final 20 seconds or even less.
Mate. Yes.
Because and the reason that happens though naturally is that the CTs expend all of their smokes, which are like about 17 to 18
I see
seconds.
where you're going. Yes.
And so if you can burn about 100 seconds with defensive utility for the CTs, okay? I mean, add the Molotovs as well. You can pretty much lock down an area for about 125 seconds, aka like, you know, almost 2 minutes basically. You can kind of do that, but when it's 155 and you're using it in all these different places, it's just that it gives this the T's are so incentivized to just wait, let you burn your utility. Okay, I now know you've used 5 smokes. I can hit a bomb site in the last 20 seconds. And there's almost nothing that the CTs can do unless they want to just say, okay, we'll just gamble and let you exec on us with 40 seconds. But if they see that you didn't throw a smoke down, well, they're just going to go. Like, it's not really that hard. And also, the thing is that because CS2 allows the T's to just hold a nade, they can always pop the smoke. Like, they could always, at the end of a round, just decide to do that too. And so going back to 145, because if people remember, in CSGO for the first, I want to say 4 or 5 years, it was a 145-minute timer. And we did have some very CT-sided maps then, like Nuke was the most famous example, because the CTs could just cycle through utility. And now I just think that it allows, because the game's in the state that it's in right now, where everything is just T-sided. Like, I know the stats are I think they kind of were like at Pro League, 6 of the 7 maps were T-sided. At the Blast Bounty, I think 4 of them, but there was like a very small amount of train maps that were played, so I'm not sure if I can count that. So like 4 out of 6 relevant maps. Either way, the game's too T-sided right now. Lowering the timer by 10 seconds. It's the only change. It's the only change. I don't need the defuse kit price change. I don't need the bomb timer to even be changed in terms of that or anything like that. It doesn't need to scale. I just think that the round timer going down 10 seconds would make it so that the T's have to choose at some points in rounds, do we just plow through this smoke? Do we just gamble and challenge them in this moment where there's no utility blocking us? Like, I think the T's need to have to gamble a little bit more, because as it stands right now, the team that's gambling more is the CTs. And I think that's a problem inherently with good Counter-Strike and what we want to see at Tier 1 CS.
Oh, I'm just thinking, what would I do if I had 10 seconds less in the round? Right? Would that make that much of a difference, right? Because, how many rounds are going down to 10 seconds? Average. Do we have that number? You
I
can
don't
say that.
think so, but it definitely happens quite a bit.
It would just increase the number of round finishing in last 5 seconds, because nothing would change all that much. 10 seconds is not that big of a deal. Yes, to some teams, if they hold smokes, if they do something you say, you can break a smoke. Not many teams. The economy is not the way it was before. Teams are prioritizing a little bit more flashes on different maps. Maps are a little bit wider than they are right now. In the beginning of CS:GO. Look at Mirage. Look at there is different things right now. So I don't think the 10 seconds would do it. I understand your point, but I don't think 10 seconds would do it. It would just make rounds a little bit more.
Do we need more?
Chaotic.
Does it need to be 25 seconds off the clock or something? 20 seconds?
Yeah, man, 20 would be making a significant difference, right? Because there is many rounds that are getting finished in the last 20 seconds, right? But not so many in the last 10 seconds, right? So it also depends on the team. Right now we had an update with a wider banana. There was an update with a smaller molly, right? The incendiary on the CT side. That kind of changes the way people are going to take banana, changes the way that you're going to play that map overall, and that also gives you a little bit more space as a T, and you can do more stuff earlier. You don't have to wait for all that shit to kind of fade and all this stuff, right? So the body of not work, but the body of your idea is fine. It's just the number of seconds that I would change from 10 to 20. Obviously, the matches would be a lot shorter. There would be a lot more chaotic rounds and everything like that. But you would get a faster Counter-Strike, and you would get more, of what you want, right? 10 seconds would just make the rounds a little bit, not rounds, but a little bit shorter, obviously, mathematically. But the CS would kind of, in terms of team play and tactics, and would digress a little bit, or regress. I don't know what the right word is.
The problem with this
overall, I don't think that, like I said, it's just that the ultimate thing is 20 would be okay, 10 wouldn't make any difference. I would rather, instead of that 10, I would rather take the diffuse kit change, right, than anything else.
Being as you did set it up that you're trying to reverse engineer this to make it less T-sided, basically, and in that sense, fix the meta of Counter, which I do think is the ultimate problem in the game right now. The problem is, I'm sort of with kassad. I think 10 might not even be extreme enough. I think if you're going to do it, put your balls on the table and do 20 seconds and just say there's a different version of Counter-Strike. Here's the problem. I can already think of the obvious angle that I don't like, which is I do think it does mean really brilliant, mid-round callers will have less sort of leeway to work with there, and there'll be more push rushed into just making like a snap call as opposed to sort of like probing. Like one thing I do enjoy about Counter-Strike, it's why now I get why back in the day, 10 years ago, people like Richard Lewis and Monte Cristo used to tell me, how are you not into the NFL? If you love Counter-Strike T-sides, that's what the NFL is. And I used to think like, what are they talking about? Because I hadn't followed it. But now I realize it is. The beauty of the game is when you see the IGL like set up, condition the defense, read where the hole is, do the right call, they make a play, and you realize that wasn't even just like his player made the play. Like he sort of like found the perfect angle or the perfect hole in the defense, or he found the weak side or whatever. Like I do love to see that, but the problem is, I know what you mean. Right now, there's not a lot of that going on anyway. There's not a lot of brilliant IGLs making these plays. A lot of it is crazy firepower on T side, just winning duels with the AK. And I do think the worst thing in Counter-Strike, I alluded to it before, the worst thing in Counter-Strike is how many teams do the classic, we've run out of ideas, all we did is for the first 45 seconds bait all the CT utility out, now essentially flip a coin, right, we're going A on 30 seconds, and then the timer hits 3-0 and they run in, and the joke is even the CTs know when it gets down to that, like it's probably going to be a rush at the last second and a split onto one of the sides. It's just, you're just gambling as to which it is. I do think it is a problem, even though this is like technically a coaching issue. I do think it is a problem that even some of the best teams in Counter-Strike have some criminal people on CT side who at the small sites just waste their utility when it hits certain timers on the clock. Like I have, this is one of the reasons I think Inferno was almost unplayable now, because Inferno went from having the best meta understanding amongst pop teams of how you trade the utility on the banana, but it was still a lot of play, and you still had to be really shrewd as to when you picked that site to be the weaker one, and the guy had rotated over to it. Now, it really is, did the AWPer there just get really nervous standing there, and he hasn't seen anyone for 20 seconds, and there could be 3 people just dry waiting to peek him on that fucking corner? Does he just throw that smoke? Because in CSGO, people treat the smoke like a brick wall. It's like, right, there's a smoke down, whew, I've got another like 15 seconds, they can't be coming in now. Like, there are a lot of people do that, and I do think it does make CS fucking whack, because essentially, every time you trick them, it's like they fell for it again ward. Like, you just get, there you go, you fell for it, you idiot, now they just get to, they're coming in anyway, dry, but they're just coming in 25 seconds later, and now you're just on your own. I do think that does make CS fundamentally worse. So, I don't hate the premise, it's just, I don't know, the joke is you might not have been spicy enough, maybe you should have made it 20 seconds just to make it like a really harsh one. I feel like in that scenario, you would just get a lot of, you just have to make a decision more. Whereas at the moment, I know what you mean. They're not doing it because they're like reading the defense, like I said. They're just draining out all the util. Like at the moment, the CTs, it's because, I'll give you the very quick reasoning if you're a casual fan. There's nothing a pro hates, as if you're like the small site anchor, from not using your smoke, and then they really do just dry peek you and just get the kill, and then the site's completely open with 45 seconds on the clock. You feel like an idiot, and it's really hard to explain that to your teammates on the big site. So the problem is, by default, you just actually, for like your own mental safety, you just you throw the util early. But I do feel like it's a bomber, because I've always thought util save to the end of the round is insanely multiplied.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've noticed also when I was just digging through Skybox Edge stuff is that, like, Vitality and Maus just never rush. They just like the rush is just dead.
Yeah.
Like basically, like rushing in Counter-Strike is just not a thing anymore at all, and it's probably a play that should have gone away. But there's just no reason to even throw it out as a threat anymore, because they're just, the teams aren't really burning half their utility in the first 10 seconds of a round. Like, nobody's scared of it. I feel like if you lowered the round timer, I think it would have it should just bring out rushes a little bit more. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just something else I've been thinking about too, where it's like nobody does rushes anymore. Like, it's just,
because they're not valid anymore. They're being used as a countermeasure. Like, that they're playing heavy banana with 3 people, you're gonna speed up somewhere else, early on. That's just like as a reactionary countermeasure thing being used, but not how many times can you get a read early on? Like, you cannot, right? So basically, there are teams that they used to have a tell. Like, if this smoke lands on 134. Like, they're playing 3 banana, that means that we shift to speed up A wherever you are. Together, like, you're coordinated mid round, right? So that's just like the way the rushes are being used right now, and that's a smart way to do it. But there is no value in rushing early on, going in blind, because you can eat nades, mollies, and you get spammed down by M4s, and it's just not very valuable at all.
Right, the last take of the show is going to be by a fan. So get ready. Someone on our Discord called Dr. Ducky. By the way, note for future episodes, if you don't want your name referenced, make sure you say it in the comment, because otherwise I'm going to call out your name too. So Dr. Ducky says, and by the way, I did intentionally pick this because it's a ridiculous one, but it's hot take point made. His hot take, are you ready, is the Mongols will win a major within a year. Where we going on this one, boy? Spicy.
He needs a doctor, Docky. That guy, he needs a fucking doctor. That's for sure.
Not bad, okay.
Winning a major, like, it's fucking ridiculous. You know how hard it is to win a fucking major? Like, the competition right now is unbelievable. Like, you know, and Mongols, as good as they are not a heavy stage team, right? They can beat they can go through quarterfinals, semifinals team. But once they reach the finals, they will not be able to get a map, not even a fucking thing. And we know that major is a different fucking beast than anything else. Like, we know that pressure rises a lot. And then these Mongolian guys, it's not like they came from fucking war, you know, and they had like 10 years of experience playing majors. No. They're just gonna be stunned as everyone else as soon as you get to the playoffs of a major, right? I remember I was there twice. And I remember the first time it was fucking, it's like a deer in front of the headlights. The first major you played in the Spodek, like, it's crazy. On top of that, they as good as they have in terms of the good players as they have in terms of skill, like, they can't compare. They cannot stack against, you know, the heavy hitters right now in CS, being, you know, Vitality, Spirit, even Maus right now, and a couple of more teams that can pop up in the sense of Eternal Fire and, you know, maybe even FaZe in some future, you know, instances. But to say they're gonna, you know, win the major within a year, that means that one of the next, 3 majors or 2 majors? Probably so one of the 2 next ones. So, mate, you need meds.
I just unfortunately feel like the Mongols B game is way too bad. That's just my big take about them right now. Is just when they're on their A game, they legitimately can take a fight to any of the top teams in the world. They don't end up usually beating Vitality or Spirit, but when they're on their B game, they lose to Astralis. When they're on their B game, they lose to a G2 that looks terrible right now. Their B game is probably on the lower end of teams that are in the top 4 or top 5. I guess technically on HLTV's ranking, they're not in the top 5, but I would have them higher than they are. I just would personally. On my own power ranking, I'd probably put them as the 5th favorite for both upcoming majors this year. I think, like, easily Vitality, Spirit, Maus. Yeah, fifth most likely to win any of those majors. It's like, that's just so low that I would never put any money or any thought into them winning the major. Like it's almost going to be a miracle if Vitality doesn't win the next major. I'll just put that out there right now. It's like who can fight? Like, a lot can change in 2 months, but if the Mongols do it, that's just absurd. And if they win the following event, the Budapest one or whatever it's going to be, then that's just like, I mean, something has to go wrong. I'll even also add a reason why. All of the teams that are in the top 2 through 4 can make changes on paper that will help them. Spirit could change out for Kioske. Maus could replace any of their players with any rifler, and they could get better. Na'Vi could do the same for practically every player on the team. The Mongols are not gonna pick up Bartak. The Mongols are not going to pick up Annihilation.
And it's less likely that it helps the team anyway if they do. It's like, well, you can't get like a ROPS into your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's no upward mobility for them other than literally improving. And that's one of the things that hurts them the most. It almost would be a more fun take to say a team that's out of the top 5, like a FaZe. Like a FaZe can win. FaZe will win the first major of 2026. You could just like bet they're going to make a good signing or something like that. But the Mongols is like, you're betting they're going to improve but they're young. Like, the one good thing about them is they're young. So they actually can improve maybe faster than some of these other teams. But I would even just say a better take is Falcons will win 3 majors from now. I think that's a literally better take than the Mongols are going to win this year. So sorry, Dr. Ducky. but try again next time.
I agree with you. First of
Like
all,
Dr. Saki.
since he's called Dr. Ducky, I will just quote like the fucking Bible or whatever, like physician, heal thyself. Like the joke is he should be able to prescribe himself the meds because that'll fucking help him get his shit together. In this scenario, stop fucking huffing copium. Because my problem with this take goes like this. It's not even a particularly good hot take. And the reason I say that is, it's mega spicy, but there's not a lot of substance to it. By the way, he didn't even give any. He just put that sentence and left it at that. He didn't give a single reason why. He just left it out there like, Mad Libs, Team X will win a major. Like, yeah, that's crazy, mate, but any reason? Nah,
roast his ass.
Gonna win, innit? So, like, that's the only problem with this take. And also, the reason why this take isn't very good is because if you do it, if you hadn't watched 2024 CS, it's a great take. The reason why it's not a very good take for 2025 is MongolZ was never supposed to be this good. Like, they've already exceeded expectations completely. Forget, guys, even the idea that we now blame them for not winning playoff series shows they have completely destroyed any glass ceiling they had being a nobody team from bumfuck nowhere that people still don't even respect the region they're from. And by the way, why would they? Like, the joke is, we all do look when the Huns go, who are from their region, and go, you shouldn't even win a map. That's the normal expectations of their team. So my problem with this is, you just like, if you acknowledge how far they've come and the gamble they did take on this young roster and how much it's paid off, I think you're just expecting something unreasonable to think they're going to get twice as good. My take, if you notice on past episodes, is I'm not going to give up on them because of the choking part, because if they ever do get that, the best part is not just their team, it's also Senzu specifically. If they ever get past that, it's not that they're going to win a major, but they'll just be cooking. Then they can be in semi-finals. Then they could, like, challenge for a fight. Maybe they could, by the way, for me, the upper limit is you make a final and you lose. Like, if they did what Maus did here, that would be an amazing performance for them. That would be almost the best I could ever hope for. The idea they're going to win the major, no way, and here's why. A bunch of the things mentioned. One, they are chokers. Spoiler, the major's the hardest one to win if you're a choker. Like, the joke is people really can win a Kelowna Katowice and still not win the major, because the major is just a type of pressure that doesn't exist except when you're at the major. And I always feel like people forget, even I do, because I see those teams get super dope before the major, and I always forget. It's only that feeling you have when you're in that, like, third map and you're down and you're like, shit, the major is a different beast, isn't it? Like, if you aren't built for this, you will just crumble. It will expose you almost every time. Then also, I agree also, the problem is they're way too young. Guys, they have teenagers in their squad. Like, it's not like all the old great teams that won in CSGO were all veterans. But remember, you used to also get more reps. You used to do 3 majors a year at the beginning of CSGO. So if you're like that Fnatic core that came out of nowhere, you get like 3 majors. They played something like 5 majors before they won one. Like, they had the chance to build up, and go through the highs and the lows. Now, at the moment, you have to, first of all, qualify. Then when you get there, you have to make a deep run. To get the experience is harder in CS2. I'll also throw this out there as well. They don't have on either end of the equation the generational player that you need. If you look at the last 5 or 6 majors, I looked this up, they're all won, guys, by either a generational IGL or star player. The only exception is the outsiders winning, where it was Jame and Flitter, which probably slightly not too far. Most people think that was a fluke. If you look at the others, since COVID, you have Simple.
That was a fluke.
You have Simple winning, he's the GOAT. Then you had Carrigan win. Then you had the Outsiders fluke. Then you had fucking Ziwu win, and we already discussed, like, maybe Apex is going to be up there. Then you had Alexi B win, people acknowledge he's all time. And now you just had fucking Donk win. Like, if you notice, you either better have some cracked IGL or star player if you want to win the major. That's just been history so far. Unfortunately, if you're MongolZ, you have neither. I think Senzu could be a really brilliant player if he gets over stage issues. He's not going to be the best rifler in the world. Blitz does a really awesome job. He's not even in the discussion with Apex to be the best IGL. So I think, unfortunately, you've got a little bit not enough in all the areas you'd probably need to win the major. The reason why it's a bang a hot take is I do think there is a world where I get the essence of what he's talking about, which is just like I always said with Maus, it just didn't happen with them. If you ever do take over and get past whatever this psychological problem is, you are going to be really good. Like, if you look at Maus last year, you look at the teams they lost to in playoffs, they probably should lose to those teams, but they also were close to sometimes beating them. They could have won like one big event out. That was a big arena event. You know, it wouldn't have been implausible. So I think he just cooked a bit too much on this one is all. He's just cooked a bit too much. Just cooked a bit too much.
Dr. Shithead. Take that.
Reasonable. Okay. I mean, I would have been a bit more welcoming. Like, yeah, guys, it's hard doing hot takes. We all started out, we've all started, I remember my first beer too. His takes just like, yeah, fuck off. Don't ever submit hot. In fact, ban that guy. You know what? Him and ZONIC should be, my last hot take of the show, Dr. Ducky and ZONIC should be banned forever from CS2. Death to all of them. Fucking okay. All right. So. Anyway, if you want to
Shut it
get
down.
your shit pushed in like Dr. Ducky or the Mongols at Majors, submit your take via the Last Free Nation Discord where you can subscribe. There's a channel. It says like CS hot takes. Maybe yours can be better. By the way, pro tip, just put a reason next time. Try and imagine kassad or someone's going to come back at you. Give like 2 reasons as to why you did your take, because it might also help you get less roasted, because at least I'll know what your angle is here. Whereas this one is, you did just throw this out there. And spoiler, in this analogy, you threw the bait out there and you got pulled into the actual river, and then the piranhas hit you, and all that's left is your skeleton when you pull it out. Like, that's it. See you, Dr. Ducky. It's done. You're done.